Yeah. You are listening to the Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys podcast. Sam Lubman and Joe Shasky coming at you every week. For more of your Giants content, make sure you're liking, subscribing, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. Because, again, every week we're coming at you with all the best Giants content. You don't want to be missing it. So, Shasky, we talked to Dave Fleming on the Morning Roast yesterday. He brought up the catching position, and he basically kind of declared that the catching position might be something we need to worry about. Now, Joey Bart exited last night's game with a groin injury. Doesn't seem like there's going to be an IL stint. Sorry, it was the night before he exited. He exited with a groin injury. They do not expect an IL stint. But again, we started this season seeing the Giants with, 4, 5, almost 6 catchers. And now it's, Blake Sabol, hope Joey Bart's okay, and Gary Sanchez looming in the minor leagues. The deadline to call him up is, this week is Monday, May 1st. So the Giants are they're going to either give him a shot to see what he has, or they're going to let him go. I know the Giants don't like to leave stones unturned. If Bart maybe does go on the IL just so they can see what Sanchez has. I mean, where are your thoughts just right now where the catching position is?
I think it's frustrating. I think it's very frustrating. I think you're seeing this with the San Francisco Giants in left field. How many different left fielders have we had since Barry Bonds?
Yeah.
How many different aces have they had since Tim Lincecum?
Yeah. Since Bumgarner even.
Since Bumgarner, great. I would even throw Bumgarner and Matt Cain in that mix. Matt Cain, Bumgarner, Gausman, Logan Webb, Carlos Rodon. Like, now you got Alex Cobb. Like,
wasn't Johnny Cueto the opening day?
Cueto, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So you get where I'm going with this? Like, replacing legends are very, very, very difficult. And I was really happy for Joey Bart. He hit a big double the other night. It feels like the bat looks faster. He's still got a lot of strikeouts. He's walking a little more, which is nice. Defensively, he's thrown some guys out, which is good. He has a quick release time.
He really does. Yeah.
Don't love the framing and the glove work, but I think that's a work in progress because of the switch in the mechanics of one leg down. But why not see Sanchez if Bart's hurt right now? I got this feeling, though. I think we're going to see Bailey by the end of the year. I think he's a September call-up. I really do.
I think that would be a great idea. Me personally, the idea of Gary Sanchez coming up, it just feels like another, Farhan, what are we doing here? Kind of.
Why do you say that?
Because it just feels like Farhan loves finding those kind of dumpster divey players. Let's just jump in and see what this guy has. And again, it's at the point where it's just like, I kind of want to be done with that. I really felt that we were going to have a more stable roster this year. Again, injuries kind of derail the best laid plans. But when I see Gary Sanchez, I see guys like almost like Yermin Mercedes last year. I was very excited when Mercedes came up because I thought this guy, he has all the tools they love. He hits it right to where they're going to want him to. Like that, being able to hit it out to left field at Oracle Park is going to be perfect for him. And he ended up being a pumpkin. And Gary Sanchez just kind of has that same thing. Sure.
Don't you have to crack a few pumpkins before you get to a Christmas tree? I don't know. That's not the analogy.
I've never heard that one before. But yeah, I mean, it's Sanchez. Yeah, he had moments. And I'm sure if you look at certain elements of his baseball savant page, you'd be like, oh, well, if he does this and this, but not this, and maybe a little bit of this, come on, sure. If you want to see what he does, sure. I feel like we already know where this experiment goes. Maybe there's a pleasant surprise and Gary Sanchez can produce for the Giants. I don't want to say stick.
What about Blake Sabol? You're not bringing up Blake Sabol. What about him?
Yeah, you know what? Let's get into Blake Sabol because he's another guy who every time they talk about just kind of throwing to him, Giants pitchers love throwing to him. He had a bullpen game last night, and Brebbia was incredibly just profusely just raving about how great Sabol was behind the plate. And I think what was it, a couple weeks ago when Roberto Perez went down, Sabol came in kind of as an emergency. And again, seamless transition for a guy who really isn't, I think, much of a catcher, but he is handling the position very well.
Yeah, I think he might be at very least a platoon option. You know what I mean? At the very least, at the most, maybe he sneaks in and is a 1-year starter or a 2-year starter or someone that you can at least have in the mix. Cause clearly he's got pop in the bat as evidence to the walk-off last night. They're going to give him a long opportunity here because you have to concede him back to the Pirates if he doesn't stick on the team for the entire year. I don't know. I'm more open to the Blake Sabol thing than I was in preseason. And I think that's because I've seen him now and I actually really like his story and I like who he is.
Yeah, and I think and Kapler said after the game last night that he's not surprised by the success that Blake Sabol has had at the plate. And yeah, he is starting to view him as more of a you're on this roster kind of guy, not a you're a Rule 5 draft pick kind of guy. So Shasky, you kind of want to move off the catching position here because the Giants, they kind of have a fun weekend ahead of them here. They're heading south of the border to Mexico City. They're going to be playing in the, I hope I do not botch this name, Alfredo Harp Helu Stadium. It was built back in 2019. I don't know if you've seen pictures of this stadium, Shasky. It's a pretty cool looking baseball field that the Giants will be playing on this weekend against the Padres.
It is, and I believe one of the minority owners for the Padres is somehow connected to the stadium and the team that's in Mexico. And so that's kind of the connection there. Well, first off, we get to see the Padres. That's number one. And Fernando Tatis Jr., who was dancing in the outfield last night to chants of steroids, which was great. He looks like him.
Do that.
I know. He looks like his old self. I mean, I'm interested to see them because they're a team. Look, I think Giants fans envy the Padres. I don't think that's something we can dismiss. They've got all these. Juan Soto, a guy who I want the Giants to still go after. He's batting 161 since being acquired by the Padres last year. Isn't that crazy?
I guess he's been having some kind of issues with the pitch clock. You hear a lot of pitchers kind of having issues with their time in the pitch clock. He's been kind of coming out and saying, this is throwing me off a little bit too. And that's kind of, might be playing into it there. So, but yeah, I mean, this is a struggle that goes back beyond this year. Like if he was struggling last year before the pitch clock, that's one where it's like, I mean, he's young enough where you're not going to worry. Maybe there's a level of the way he was brought to San Diego, just put a lot of expectations on him. But this is a guy who, he was 19, 20 years old and helping the Nationals win a World Series. He was playing stellar baseball on the grandest stage before he could even drink a beer.
Yeah.
So it is kind of surprising to think that something like a pitch clock could be throwing him off, but that just shows you this is a difficult game, baseball.
It really is.
And
it really is.
The Giants, I think they have a chance this weekend to maybe kind of take advantage and get some extra wins against the Padres that they might not have, originally gotten because Padres are kind of wounded right now. So you got to strike kind of while the iron's hot.
I totally agree. And I just think it's a good litmus test for the Giants right now. I really do. You got Xander Bogaerts, obviously was acquired. Machado, who's been struggling out the gates. They've got a phenomenal pitching staff. I think this is a great matchup for the Giants. I think it's a great litmus test. And more than anything, I think it's fun that Major League Baseball is now going into Mexico. I think this is going to be an untapped market for them. And I know people, expansion. Why not have a Japanese division? Why not have a Mexico division? Like, I'm all in on this.
I think that's actually an interesting thought. That would be kind of cool. I mean, it's going to be one thing that's really fun about this series, I think, Shasky, that I think maybe it should be fun. I think we should probably maybe a little worried about it. So you know how we always dread when the Giants go to Coors Field because it's a mile high and we're like, oh, there go the ERAs. This stadium sits over 6,600 feet above sea level. This thing is higher than Coors Field. When I was saying goodbye to Dave Fleming the other day, it's like, how high up is this place? And he told me, the 6,600 is like, oh, RIP those ERAs. Shasky, we could be seeing a bit of a home run derby. We got a Padres team that's full of sluggers. And then we got a Giants team where they said this year they're going to hit a lot of home runs. And, we were texting last night, saying, oh, this team, they can't actually hit home runs. And then seconds later, Blake Sabol walks it off. So we got two teams that are capable of, putting the ball in the seats. We could see a bit of a fireworks show this weekend even. And no pitchers have been announced yet. Maybe the pitchers are just kind of refusing to want to pitch because they just are worried of how many home runs they're going to be giving up.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this. And I'm kind of excited to see what the reception is fan-wise, aren't you?
Yeah, it's not a big stadium. It only holds 20,000 people. I wonder if maybe they're going to try and bring in some extra auxiliary seating to try and get more people in there because this is the Major League Baseball's first foray into Mexico. They got two teams I think are going to resonate well with the local fan base there. Obviously, San Diego, very close to Mexico. San Francisco has San Francisco and the Bay Area in general have a very large Hispanic population. So I think there's a lot of cultural connections there that the local fan base can maybe have with these two teams. 20,000 people seems like not that many. Didn't when the Yankees and Red Sox played in London a few years ago, didn't they play at Wembley, if I recall, which is a much bigger stadium. So I'd be kind of curious to see if they maybe do anything extra there, but I'm very excited because it's a very cool field. It's a circular field. The left field and right field are 325. Center field straight away is 400. So it's spacious. It's going to be a really cool just situation to see the Giants playing. And you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing other kind of special locations for, if not just the Giants, but just other teams as well. We've talked about the Field of Dreams game. I think you mentioned last year at one point you wanted to see the Giants and Dodgers play a game in upstate New York or something like that to kind of harken back to those giant, those New York Giants, Brooklyn Dodger days. This is how you make baseball cool. Let's go to cool places. Let's put on cool shows. And that is how I think you truly, expand and grow the game. So, Shasta, before we sign off here, do you have any final thoughts that you want to get off before we head out?
No, I'm just excited that baseball's, kicking in, and the Giants aren't dead. They're not just completely dead. They're showing signs of life, and there's some positives that we can take away. Alex Cobb, what a heck of a signing. He looks really good. DeSclafani looks like he's bounced back. Yastrzemski looks really good. JD Davis looks really good right now. Thairo Estrada looks really good right now. Who is the youngster they're going to call up first? That's what I'm hanging on right now. And Harrison feels very close. I believe Harrison had 8 or 9 strikeouts in 3 innings. Harrison could be right around the corner.
I mean, the Giants are already kind of going to bullpen games. So, eventually they could need a starter soon. But that might be the thing to keep an eye on. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This is Sam Lum along with Joe Shasky on the Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys podcast. Make sure you're liking and reviewing and subscribing and all those other things you do the podcast. And we will catch you on the next one.